You've seen the woods and the confidence and the projects that worked, really good days, and those financial rewards. Those maybe long enough, you've seen travel, Thailand, Fiji's, diving, Philippines. You've seen the happiness that projected, and you've seen the part of me where things go, where I'm screaming my head off with joy. When I wake up and feel nothing, pure drive, raw energy to want to go and to want to. This isn't lost. This is the other side, the part that I've not shown. Part where no dose of motivation, years of personal development can really and truly help you with. And it's darkness. Part of us, I'm not sharing this for sympathy. I'm not asking you for you to understand. I'm not asking anyone to. I'm not asking to be understood. I'm not even asking for you to hold this for me. I'm holding it, and I'm responsible. I'm just putting the truth on the table because here is the dark that I. Here's where I struggle. Here is where I failed. And so if you're listening for hope or lessons or a clean takeaway, you're not going to get that today. What you'll get is raw, authentic reality. This is what happens. Stop editing yourself physically and mentally. See, I live with ongoing depression. Diagnosed, it's medicated. Doesn't make me dramatic. Does make me tired sometimes. The last few years, I've had to rely on testosterone replacement therapy. Not even play it, TRT. Attain a level of emotional resilience, psychological stability, and baseline. Because without it, I don't function. That COVID period, COVID, that stuff. It's like a periods of flats with low motivation. That from the outside, only I can judge myself to think, geez, that's like lazy. From the outside, I can tell you it feels like gravity from the inside. My nervous system is fatigued from years upon years upon years of responsibility. Body often signals limits before my mind is willing to actually listen. I think I'm so. I recently sat in ER what can only describe as excruciating pain. I'm able to get myself out of the dark. See, I carry the pressure to function consistently, even when capacity fluctuates. And yes, I'm afraid of what happened. That support system stops working. And yes, I'm even more afraid if I stop. One of the hardest parts of this is that I look fine, sound articulate, I show up, perform confident, which means when I'm struggling, I'm invisible. And when it's invisible, very easy people, including me, listen. I don't get social permission to slow down because nothing is physically broken. And I've learned over the years how to override my body. I've learned how to push through signals that are supposed to tell me to stop. Neurological pain. And that skill, which looks like a shred from the outside, is part of my life. There's a calculation running in the background every single day that says I can't make it. And this is where a lot of damage accumulates. Emotionally, the dark side of my success, my mental health story with no sugarcoating, is that I wake up some days already carrying a weight, a weight that suffocates, that draws me to the dark. I constantly scanning problems and the risks, the things that could and might go wrong. Not dramatically, quite think. And when I can only manage that bare minimum, when I go and feel shame and guilt, I tell myself, I should get ahead or more. What I crave sometimes is engage in distraction just to feel self-agency. Because I often feel trapped between obligation and self-preservation. And then joy shit rarely arrives. And if it does, it's always a sense of responsibility. On those days where I don't wake up neutral, where I wake up already behind, struggle. Not because of anything specific, because my mind boots up already accounting for everything that could go wrong. And it's not a panic always, it's a vigil. And when you live like this long enough, even rest itself starts to feel unsafe. And I have sight evidence now from my garment. My HRV takes to 19, it should be in the 40s. If you know anything about HRV, go and look up heart rate variability, and it's pre-cursed to what has happened in life. I've had mornings where I work at 2 o'clock in the morning. The next day I'll check my HRV. Literally at 2 o'clock in the morning, my HRV drops because it just rises. Shit, thanks. You see, stillness doesn't feels like exposure. So I stay busy. Not because I love productivity, I enjoy it, but because stopping gives the weight room to sit. The next part is even harder to say. Times when I've said and done bad things. Yeah. Because I wanted to hurt them, but because they were close. Fear was louder than care. Being sharp in defense, being nasty, not as a strategy, as action. Words that came from exhaustion, feeling cornered, responsible, trying to protect something inside of me that I already felt. And as you become more emotionally aware, burden's supposed to leave, doesn't heavy, but you can watch yourself do it. No, even in that moment, this wasn't who I wanted to be. Carry that. Hurt people, find and part of the dark too. When it comes to emotions, grief. I chose to put my soul dog down on 14 years cancer. I carry that moral weight decision, and I haven't fully processed it. My heart dog, it's I'm covering out bed, looking at left anticipatory grief. My mother died a few years ago, and that grief was avoided, never fully metabolized or passed on. it's coming back now. My father is watching history repeat itself. Carried grief or continued to function without space to collapse. I didn't grieve my mother because it didn't. Life didn't make space. Maybe I didn't. I didn't make space because everything else felt more urgent. It shrunk. Fortunately, as I learned, went to the US 6 weeks after that, is cannot run away from yourself. You cannot even find yourself because everywhere you go, there you are. You cannot outrun grief because grief doesn't. Because you're going to slow it leaks into your patience, into your energy, into your joy. When I spoke about the soul, I didn't just use a companion. I lost everything. 14 years of teen presence, emotional gone because I disliked time. And yeah, people say you did the right thing. Maybe I did. Here's the thing about the right thing. It doesn't ease the weight. In my friendships, my friends struggle emotionally at times. I've always been the one to support them through anxiety, through stress, crisis, suicide, rape, global events, that's all. And my own need for alone time. I've been an extrovert, still need that times I can defer. So you lose a sense of authority over your own time. And that loss creates this feeling of tension between being a supportive human and a depleted human. I find that even more so now. There's this pressure around this age, ability and possibility of childhood, complex stage of life. And other times I just become emotionally invisible. It's one of the hardest truths I've learned is that love doesn't always refill you if you're already draws more from into us. When your reserves are low, even good love becomes. I've learned that being reliable slowly erases your inevitable right to be unavailable. And I know people don't mean this. When you're always steady, your absence to them feels like abandonment. Feels like abandonment even when it's survival. On the work front, I work full time in something that can often drain more than it is. Like force myself through some days when everything in my body yells. So I worry about being judged for my creative expression. And I have colleagues misinterpret my intent for my truth. And I feel split between who I am creatively and who I need to be professionally. And so I'm building that future early in the mornings and late into the evenings. And I carry that responsibility without recognition or it. You see, there's a specific exhaustion that comes from pretending part of yourself that only exists hours of the day. You're not lying. You're selectively it. And editing yourself long and great lit, you can't rest. Don't resent that. I resent having to choose a version of myself which is allowed to exist in that room energy that I have. Financially and in business, part of entrepreneurship, I never really showed. The real cost of sex is that I've had to deal with strain as a financial, like with cash flow pressures, from stored assets. I've had successful pieces that I've had to sell. I've been involved in legal disputes with partners, including court action. I've experienced moral injuries and doing my best. The thing is, I carry the responsibility for half the money, best with parts, even when outcomes are not fully in my control. I make constantly evolving decisions with information. There's just something I'm accounted for. Do you have flaws because I'm tight? They must go on. Publicly. Publicly, I'm being called a fake, liar, fraud, worse, cunt, goose, all because I share. And whilst I know that opinions of others are none of my business, when you read them for the first time, they still sting. I've received abuse over 36 clips taken out of context, and my entire life has been judged from fragments. People ignore the full story behind both success and failure, whatever reason. That's why I feel that pressure to either take silent or expose it. Exposing everything, I worry that honesty will be weaponized against me, even this very same podcast. So it carries some lessons about space, fully process either. Criticism doesn't hurt most when it's false. It hurts when it's simplistic, when a complex life is flattened into a label. I can handle the disagreement. What wears me down is being misunderstood. It's essential. Because that's essentially feel between our days. No longer who I used to, but I'm also not fully yet who I am. My old fuel sources burned out. Urgency proved being needed. They worked. They worked until they didn't. And I don't know yet places. I struggle with that. Struggle with fear, slowing down a world that rewards consideration is going to. I want to speak truth about needed validation. I want to create for myself, not for the algorithm. Because that tension, that part of me is real. And as I've outgrown those parts of myself, those things that once powered me, there is again, and again. It's a great, because there's a space between no longer driven by that and not yet anchored in something else that feels like floating coordinate. But time, my time rarely feels like it's mine. At least sometimes it feels that, doesn't mean it's true. Because obligations back recovery notes. Saying no, guilt. When everything feels like a trade-off, rest, responsibility, relationships, it's strong. Even good things, and a long, uninterrupted time alone without explanation or defect. My creativity, I want to say everything honestly, but I know that once spoken, it can't be back. And do I feel that pressure to be authentic without being self-destructive? Try to balance vulnerability, self-protection. Allow both. Hence this podcast. So it is not integration. And I know this won't be for everyone. No, we get truth underneath all of it. That I'm not facing many unrelated, facing one central challenge rest across the entirety of my life. Being the responsible one without a protective place to rest. I don't need solutions right now. I need pauses, don't require justification. I need rest that doesn't have to be urgent. I need to stop confusing endurance being a virtue. And this episode isn't a collapse. It's a reckoning with reality. And reality says that carrying everything indefinitely is not strength. And this is not a conclusion. This is me saying, this is what it actually costs me. This is the dark I deal with. This is who I am. This is where I struggle. This is where I have failed. Thank you, Bishop. Thank you, Bishop.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this, subscribe or share the episode.